do and what they study and why they've chosen this course, things like that. Maybe a little bit about your family and where you live, basic stuff.
Do they exchange photographs?
They can,
sort of
if they want to, they can. Yes, yes. And some of them actually nowadays have their own website, so they can refer to that. So the way they introduce themselves varies. And after that, the real work starts, and then they have to choose topics, and they can just suggest topics, or maybe just through their introductory mails, topics pop up that they're both interested in, and they're required to write so many solid letters to their partner, also correct their partner, and they have to be on a number of topics, also to do with the culture of the countries that they both live in, because we also want some cultural exchange, because they are, you know, going to be teachers of English, so they want to know a little bit more about the culture of the English-speaking world. So that's, but apart from that, the choice of topics is completely free, which is just another advantage of doing tandem learning and autonomous learning.
Do the students receive some kind of credit for doing this?
Yes.
In both countries?
Here they do. In our school they get 1 credit for this part of the writing course, because we also have a little bit of a traditional course. Our partners usually don't get a specific credit simply because there are not so many English-speaking people who want to learn Dutch full-time.
Okay. If I were to ask one of your students that has done this tandem learning course, what might be the most frequently made remark as to what has been so beneficial to you? What is the output for you? I mean, what is the value of the program, so to speak?
The things mentioned most are things like I've picked up a lot of everyday vocabulary, idiomatic things, expressions, maybe slang used by young people, things like that.
Okay.
That's the thing they mention most, and also the advantage I just mentioned, being able to exchange ideas on topics that relate to them, and not so much topics set by a teacher. So those 2 things, and then the first thing they usually mention as a disadvantage is the fact that often their partner is not as reliable as they had hoped for.
Okay.
So that's the evaluation in a nutshell.
Okay, excellent. Do you use some special software to do the email exchange, or do you just use ordinary email?
Yes, already available email program, whatever they use.
Do you find that you need to introduce and explain a lot when it comes to this, or do you think that the students are already aware of the possibilities?
Nowadays, yes. Yes.
Okay.
When we first started out, email was relatively new, and you had to explain what email was and how it works. Nowadays you don't have to, of course, no. And they use other new media like Messenger, ICQ, things like that.
Okay. Yeah. If we wanted to do something similar with tandem learning, could you give us some advice as to how to set this up, how to start this? Some good starting activities for youngsters who are about to go abroad, to do an international work placement.
Yes, I think introducing yourself, knowing how to introduce yourself in a proper way would be one of the first steps you would have to take. Knowing how to explain things about yourself, but also about what you do here and why you go on exchange, or what you hope to achieve while on exchange or on a traineeship abroad. If you do that through email, of course, they can prepare it well, because they write a text before they send it off, and they can check it before they send it off. So you can obviously combine writing in a foreign language with explaining things about the practical side of their course.
Yeah.
If that's what you mean.
That's what I mean.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. We very quickly talked about webcams. Have you ever used webcams in your course? Is there a particular reason why you have or haven't? Or?
Well, not in this course. We,
No.
we do use video conferencing and webcams for instance, when we look at people who are on school practice, and we film in their class and look at them here at school. So we do use it, but not for the tandem project. Although we will always say to our students, we suggest that they do that. Set up a video conference, for instance, or nowadays a lot of our students have their own webcam at home and software to go with it, so they could meet up with their partner.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's optional.
Right. Okay. One final question. One of the problems we sometimes encounter with students emailing to students abroad is that they start talking about everything and anything, and it soon drops to a certain level. How do you prevent this from happening?
True, I have the same thing here, chit-chat about what they did during the weekend and all that. I simply say, I do a check on your work at the end of the year, because they have to submit a portfolio with their work, which I look at not into detail, because then I'm doing the work that they and their partner should be doing. But I will look at their portfolio, and if there is too much chit-chat in it, they will fail the course. So I've set out some requirements, what a solid letter that is eligible to be a good letter for this course should be. So many words, and they have to learn something new from each letter. So they have to make a list of new things they've learned from each contact, from each correspondence.
We keep hearing more and more about feedback. How do you give feedback on somebody else's input? And in this particular case, where you correct somebody's work, it is very important that you're aware of how to give feedback. Do you find that this is changing as well, or that it's becoming more and more important, the way that people give feedback on? Or is it just a red marker and say that's a mistake?
No. We suggest different ways of giving feedback. First of all, we say limit the remarks, the correction remarks that you put in one letter. Say no more than 10. And then we tell them, discuss with your partner what he or she wants you to look at. So maybe the partner says, okay, could you look at the tenses in my letter, or could you look at my use of prepositions, or could you look at my vocabulary, so they can specify. Again, it depends on their learning targets. And then there are a few ways how you can do that. Again, discuss it with the partner. You can ask your partner to correct everything literally, or you can ask them to just put a cross in front of a mistake, and then you first have to find out again what is the mistake. So you have to think about it yourself rather than get a ready answer. So there are various ways of correcting each other or giving feedback.
Thank you very much. Do you think that we've missed anything in this interview? Is there something you would like to add? Perhaps a special experience that you've had with one of your students and his or her partner abroad? No special relationships that came from...
No. Well, there are people who actually keep in touch even after the project finishes. So that's always a nice thing to hear. Maybe one more tip I think is valuable anyway. Once you start making connections abroad to set up tandem learning, it's a good idea to meet up face to face with the people you work with, because that's the only way to guarantee some sort of equality in the position of the project in the curriculum, because that is mainly my problem.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I'm absolutely certain that we've been given some great insights into everything to do with tandem learning, your experiences, your aims, and most of all your enthusiasm. On behalf of the project group, I'd like to thank you very, very much.
Oh, thank you and good luck.
Thank you.